New York City, a city of 150 nationalities, many ethnic groups. There are Jewish people, Italian, Irish, Polish, Jamaicans, African Americans, a melting pot. Or is it a melting pot? Are there walls that divide us in this city and in many cities in the world? Well, in the last days, though, no man knoweth the hour he comes. We have to tear down these walls, for the true sanctuary has no walls. It's the sanctuary to come in the kingdom that he will bring to us. Spiritual windows abound in my testimony, and I hope in yours. What am I talking about when I talk about spiritual windows? Well, when a group of engineers get together and scientists who send a rocket into outer space or the space shuttle, there's what they call a window of opportunity of which that rocket goes through. It's a trajectory of minute degrees before that rocket can go through that window. It takes preparation and knowledge. By the same token, the spiritual window that we all go through in various times in our lives takes knowledge, preparation, and the faith to go through. Spiritual window I want to go through now and share with you. Well, mine began as a young boy of 6 years of age, as I can recall, in a synagogue with my grandfather, the rabbi, with his prayer shawl that I'm wearing, his kippah. And most of the men had beards in those days. They would daven and pray and weave back and forth. I always wanted to know what it's all about. Then I would grab onto his prayer shawl and these fringes, and I would pull and tug on these fringes to get his attention, and he would look down at me and say, "Mordecai, shh, later on." And he always did answer my questions. Why I know the book of Daniel to be a fact? Because my grandfather did what Daniel did. For Daniel went to the balcony, to the window, his spiritual window, and faced Yerushalayim, faced Jerusalem. And he would daven and pray and read from the Tanakh like so. But he did what Jesus said to do, and he didn't even know it. For Jesus said to go into your prayer closet. He was not talking about a closet where we put clothes in like we have today in our homes. No, he was talking about this prayer shawl. For he would cover his entire head in this prayer shawl. He put the Tanakh down, the Bible down, and his whole head covered in this prayer shawl, this prayer closet, this door of decision. He would reach for the inner recesses of his very soul, his very heart. He would reach inward before he can reach outward. And I say to you, dear brethren, we need to reach inward before we can reach outward. And he would face Jerusalem, just like Daniel did. Well, my father, like many other Jewish men, in those days, could not work in factories. There was some anti-Semitism. It was difficult to get a job. So he did like many other Jews do. Of course, they sought out an education, and many became doctors, lawyers, and business people. Well, my father went door to door, peddling goods, and I went with him. He worked very hard and long hours. He saved his money, and his dream was to open a store, and that he did. He uprooted our family and left New York. And by the way, that was sad in a way because I left my Jewish roots when we left Brooklyn, New York. I remember going to Hebrew school here. And I was seeking that spiritual window which my grandfather found and expressed as a rabbi. Well, we went west and left that all behind. My grandfather passed away and things changed. My father opened a store in Muncie, Marion, in Indiana. We lived in a place called Morris Hill. My first experience to Christianity And I remember the teacher would take me as a little boy and put me in front of the class and want me to say a little something, introduce myself. Well, I said, my name is Mordecai. Of course, in them days, I talk like with the heavy Brooklyn accent. I live on 33rd Street, my father, my mother. That's the way I used to talk. I lost it, I think. Well, I remember the first recess after that. And the kids came up to me and said, hey, Mordecai, whatever your name is, you talk kind of funny. What are you? I said, well, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. Well, that was no problem in Brooklyn. No problem in Brooklyn. But it was a problem in Indiana. And next thing I know, the kids gathered around me at recess time. And they said, well, we want to play a game with you. I remember this tall kid coming at me. And he didn't look too kosher. They wanted to play this game with this Jewish kid in Indiana. He put a block of wood on my shoulder and a block of wood on his. And he said, now, I'm going to knock this block of wood off your shoulder. I want you to knock it off of mine. Well, reluctantly, I did knock that piece of wood off his shoulder. And this big kid hit me so hard. I remember hearing girls laughing behind him and other kids. He hit me so hard, down I went. My face was numb. I remember them kicking me in the ribs. And the first words I ever heard outside of New York City and Indiana was, Jew boy. And then came Christ killer. And I cried, and I was hurting. Now my face was bloodied. And I said, I didn't kill nobody. What's going on? Well, I fought back. And after a while, like kids, we became friends, as kids would do. That's the first time I heard of Jesus. And it stuck with me for many, many years. And it still bothers me a little bit when I hear that name. But it's come to have great meaning to me now. My father moved out west and opened a couple of more stores in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Ogden. And that's when I heard about Mormons. And I heard the charge of deicide again, that we Jews killed Christ. It was only until I opened the New Testament later in my life, when I gave my heart to Jesus, and I read the book of John, that he said, I have the power to lay down my life for the sins of the world. If anyone killed Jesus, there is no salvation. I know people say we crucify him every day. Maybe so in one way or another. But no one killed Jesus, for he laid down his life for you and I. It's a gift he gave you, free. No kind of work will justify what he did. He gave a gift freely for us. It's all on how we receive it. And this charge of deicide, while I'm sharing my testimony with you a little bit, spiritual windows, I want to tell you, it is so wrong for Christianity for 2,000 years, has been blinded by Satan, has accused the Jew of deicide, that we kill Christ, and that we're suffering because we kill Christ. That is not true. It's even in our Seventh-day Adventist commentary, and it's wrong. I want to tell you why it's wrong. What about the deicide, the genocide of millions of Africans throughout their history? Is that because they killed Christ? What about the millions of Cambodians, the genocide? Is that because they rejected and killed Christ? What about the Haitians? Millions have died. Is that because they rejected and killed Christ? And the Indian nation, the genocide of the Indians of America, is that because they killed Christ? Well, let me share with you, no. It is man, it is Satan. I have a God of love. The homeless people I see in New York, in the winter especially, impacted my mind and my heart, laying in the streets, living in boxes, very little food. These homeless people remind me of an experience I had while in Canada that changed my entire ministry, my entire outlook on theology. I call it the man in the park. While I was sharing up there, I had some time off, and I was walking in this park with my wife, and my sister Barbara. And all of a sudden a guy yells out to me, "Preacher, preacher, preacher, pray for me." He grabbed me from behind. He spins me around, his face and my face, that close. He had a scar on his face. He was a homeless man. He reeked full of alcohol. And the first reaction I had is a normal one. I wanted to push him away. But yet he said, "Pray for me." So we held his hand, and he bent his forehead down on our hands like this. And as he pressed his head against our hands, we had this long prayer for him. And my wife was stroking the back of his head like a mother stroking her son's head. And after we finished this long prayer, I looked at our hands, and they were wet with his tears. And I want to tell you, it touched my heart. And I thought, well, usually homeless people ask you for money. Well, I told him, "Look, I have some Canadian money. Would you need any money?" He said, No, preacher. No, preacher. I don't want no money. No money. I just wanted you to pray for me." With a smile, this man in the park, abruptly as he came, abruptly left. He turned around, started walking away. And the Lord revealed to me, I thought in my mind, what did this homeless man want? First off, he was very lonely. He wanted to be loved. He wanted family. He wanted to be touched. This man in the park. And as this man in the park walked off further and further in the distance, the Lord revealed to me, not audibly, but I know it's a thought process, that when Jesus was here, what is the greatest example he gave us in his short ministry? Let me tell you. This thought changed my entire ministry and forever will. This is the bottom line. When Jesus was here, he did not debate the Sadducees at length, nor the Pharisees at length over theology. No. What he did, he touched, he loved, and he healed. And dear people, I want to tell you, if you do not touch, there will be no loving, there will be no healing. And that's what we need in our church today, I believe, with all my heart. Agape love. Agape love. As I leave you, remember the man in the park that I shared with you, the man in the park. That's what it's all about. For he touched, he loved, and he healed. Shalom, Havarim. Shalom.